Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Senna updated complete guide, of course, for our latest patch. So I've been pretty fortunate so far since the season started. I haven't gotten autofill to support all that much, but nowadays I'm getting autofill to jungle the most, a little bit to support, and of course we're gonna have to pull out the Senna. So before we get into the loadout, of course check out the cards up above right now for Senna's basic guide, telling you her skills, leveling order tips and tricks, as well as a couple of combos. But with that said, now let's jump straight into talking about the items, runes, and spells. So, damage Senna has been the way to go for quite some time now. It's pretty interesting because obviously when Senna first came out, back with like the Sentinels of Light event with Lucian, I mean her best build was like a mix of damage and tankiness. Like you had Frozen Mallet in the build and things like that. Some of you guys may not even know what Frozen Mallet is, because it's such an old item that got removed. And then obviously damage Senna became the best build to go. And then for a long time, tank slash utility Senna was the best, and then now damage Senna, lethality Senna to be specific, is back. If we take a look at the top builds, not the influencer builds, you can pretty much see everybody's using roughly the same build, where you have lethality boots, you have Dustblade, you have normally Serpent Spang, somebody goes for Collector here as well, and then you obviously have the Blaster as well as the Mole Reminder. So that's pretty much going to be my build. You start off with the Spectral Sickle, because normally Senna is a very strong lane bully, so normally you can proc your Spectral Sickle pretty easily, unless your ADC is kind of inting and is never around for you to actually proc it. Otherwise, it's not very difficult to proc the Sickle, so nowadays I don't normally go for the Relic Shield anymore, although it does give you the wave control, but I don't really go for it anymore. I normally like to go for the Sickle or sometimes Ancient Coin if it's a lane that I think is a little bit harder, but normally it's going to be the Sickle. And then you go for the Boots of Dynamism, of course, for the early game armor pen. As I said, Senna is a very strong champion in lane. You can just use that early game lethality to just start dealing damage in lane. And speaking of lethality, you want to transition into a couple of lethality items. Now you go for Dustblade first item pretty much all the time. A ton of AD, a ton of lethality, and of course you get that extra damage on your auto. Now the invisibility reset can come in handy from time to time, especially just to reposition a little bit or to even run away after getting a kill. But it's mostly just for the pure stats and that bonus damage. And then you go for a second lethality item. Now, most of the time, this is going to be Serpent Spang. Now, there's so much shielding in this current meta. Tanks are all building gargoyles. ADCs all have Bloodthirster, and there's just a lot of shielding abilities in general. So Serpent Spang generally is going to be the best here. You get again, a lot of AD, a ton of armor penetration, and you get the anti-shield passive. However, if you don't actually need the anti-shield, then you can instead go for a defensive option, Edge of Night. Now, Edge of Night gives you only about half of the armor pen, but instead you get max health and you get a spell shield, which is very, very helpful when it comes to just your extra safety. Now, you could go for something else as well, something like a Yomu's or something like a Collector can work as well. But I think if personally I would value the safety, so if I don't need to go Serpent Spang, I'm gonna go Edge of Night. Now by this point, you would have collected a lot of souls and hopefully you have snowballed, so the best item to go for at this point is going to be the Magnetic Blaster. Now the reason why Magnetic Blaster is really, really insane here is because you get not only the extra burst damage, but you also get the extra range. So the blaster range plus your own range pretty much means you can attack somebody for free one auto, and then one auto is going to proc both blaster and Dustblade, and that one auto is going to hurt a lot. You guys will see later on in the gameplay that is going to hit like a trunk. You can half health a squishy target from like one auto when you get to the later stages of the game, which is no real big surprise at all. Right. And finally, you want to go for Mole Reminder just for extra armor pen and Grievous Wounds. You can get the Grievous Wounds portion earlier if you're against a lot of healing. Otherwise, you only want to go for this at the very end if you even reach last item. Now, of course, if need be, you can sell your support item and get another item. And for the runes, I still think Fleet Footwork is going to be the best rune for Senna, right? It's very helpful in the laning phase just to win trades, just to heal up and get that bonus healing. But also it's very helpful for your combo, right? Because Senna's auto attacks are very, very slow, so just getting the extra 100% attack speed to get off your auto is going to come in very, very handy. So Fleet Footwork is pretty much just the best right now. You do have some other options other than Fleet Footwork. Press the attack is an option. Your auto Q auto will proc it, but it's just that I think after you auto Q auto, most of your damage is already done unless you get into a long auto attack battle. Otherwise, PTA is not that helpful. Now you technically can also go for the new rune Dark Harvest. Dark Harvest is of course a decent rune, especially since you're doing so much damage, so it's pretty viable. But I just think the consistency of Fleet is better for Senna. Right, and next up you want to go for the Domination Tree Shield Bash. Of course, whenever you heal and shield, you will do bonus damage on your next attack. Considering your main combo is auto Q auto, The last auto will proc it. Same thing with Empowered Attack. Your autos are going to proc some extra damage. And here I like to take Zombie Ward because it gives you like, I think it's like 25, sorry, gain extra 10 AD. So every stack you gain 10 AD. So it's extra like 50 AD, which is just huge, right? So you want to stack this up ideally as quickly as you can, which is why I really prioritize trying to get wards if possible, and then just bone plating for the extra safety. Now I have tried the new runes. I have tried, the I'm not sure what this is called, the chain assault, but the issue is that you need to hit someone with an active ability first. So unless you proc it off of your W and then you auto Q auto afterwards, if not, it's not very easy to proc. So the more consistent one is still going to be Empowered Attack. And for the spells, you're going to go for Flash and Heal since you are generally the support. So you are going to heal just to help out your team that little bit. With all that said though, let's move on to taking a look at the gameplay. Okay, so let's take a look at the gameplay as usual. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Of course, I'll be sure to address them. So yeah, I was taking a bit of time because I did not equip the support item into the default loadout. I was trying to find the support item, scrolling through. They now have the new support tab. So I was scrolling through like the physical damage tab. And I realized the support item is no longer there. So I took a little bit of time to get to lane, control ward the lane immediately. We get our first zombie ward stack. Now I think it's pretty important if you go for zombie ward, you gotta go control ward because you want to be able to reveal those enemy wards and be able to get the zombie ward stacks. So we're gonna get to work immediately, right? So I have the same range as Ashe, which means that I can actually compete with her range. So you can see I'm immediately walking up to auto, and what I really want, as you can see here, is to just harvest souls off of Ashe and Braum. Now, Braum is one of Senna's easiest matchups in terms of support matchup because he has basically almost no pressure on you. The only way you die to a Braum is you're overextended, you're out of position, Braum hits a Q on you, slows you down, and either you get run down by his teammates or somehow they proc passive on you and then you get stunned and you die. And of course with Ashe it's pretty dangerous because Ashe has slows as well, but now slows no longer stack. And Ashe is not the easiest matchup because she has range, but we catch the Ashe in the W there. Samira nearly gets the kill but gets exhausted, so doesn't actually quite get it. But Ashe is a pretty decent matchup for Samira. Doesn't have a lot of early game damage, and you can match her range. So if she can auto you, it means you can auto her, right? So of course, it goes the other way around as well. If you can auto her, it means she can auto you. But in terms of trading autos, Senna's auto hurts more. So if you auto once and walk out of range, and then you do that again, or you Q her, you will not only win the trade, but you will also be able to harvest souls. So it's a very positive matchup for Senna. However, Senna obviously is not an amazing partner for Samira, right? So on my team, basically the only person who plays well with Samira is Galio because he has a lot of CC. Other than that, Samira kind of has a very hard time. Now, personally, I would never pick Samira if my support is a Senna. But, we can't control what our teammates pick for what they play, right? So she chose to pick Samira, so it's going to be Samira that I have to play with. Of course, you can proc Samira passive off of your CC on the W, but other than that, you can't really do very much. So honestly, I think that to some extent, this is okay because one of Samira's weaknesses is if she can't ult in lane, she's just gonna get poked out, right? Which is why Samira is a very weak matchup against Ashe, right? As they go in on me here. Of course, I was just baiting because we know that Mastery is in the bush, kind of just waiting, and they're actually both gonna be able to get kills onto both of the enemies here. So we kill both of our enemy laners, and it all just kind of works out, right? So I think my role, of course, in the early game is just to basically be aggressive and poke them out and make sure that we have kill pressure on them. And in the meantime, Samira can just focus on farming. She doesn't really have to do anything special. Of course, if I catch them out like what I did just now, she can then come in and try to follow up. Otherwise, since I'm not an engaged support, there's not much I can really do to help her. The only thing I can do to help her is do damage, because by doing damage, it ensures that they're not doing damage to her, because I'm doing damage to them, right? So you can see I'm just blasting the Braum at every opportunity, blasting the Ashe at every opportunity, because this also has the added benefit of giving me souls, right? So I'm just harvesting souls off of the Braum, especially whenever it's up. I'm just getting 2 auto attacks in or auto attack Q on him just to harvest them souls. Cross map out there to help out my top lane, and you always have to be alert on the map when you're playing Senna, because you always need to look out for when you can ult or when you need to ult to help other people. Now there you can see I have a controller in the bush, and Braum is trying very hard to get it, so I'm going to make sure he takes damage right. I'm already half health him. Unfortunately though, it was a little bit of a bait because Gwen now comes in. I'm auto-attacking the Braum from over the wall. I'm able to trade the kill onto the Braum, so it's a 1-for-1 trade so far. the Gwen is now coming onto me. However, Master Yi is here to finish the job on her. Unfortunately, she transports the root onto the Ashe, and Ashe is now just getting run down. I make sure I heal the Master Yi to make sure he has the health to survive that tower dive. And then since both of the enemy laners are dead, I actually get the opportunity to farm some tower plates. So you can see that at this point, I'm kind of getting fed myself. I actually have more gold than my ADC, just slightly, but you guys know from the title that I end up doing double of my ADC's damage. So of course have a am going to have, I guess, because you haven't seen it yet, I'm gonna have a pretty good game here. So I also want to take advantage of this opportunity to talk about a couple of things, right? Firstly is like Senna's, how strong I think Senna is, and secondly is her new like mini rework, right? So I personally think Senna is one of the strongest supports if you can play her properly. The thing is that I don't see a lot of people playing Senna very well, right? And that's, I think, because Senna is a very unique support in the sense that she is like an ADC and she's like squishy, especially if you build tank as we ult to the mid lane to save the Galio and get the assist as well. Zombie ward stack here for me. She plays like an ADC, right? But she's very supportive at the same time. You kind of need to position well and things like that. So I think that's a skill set that most supports don't have. Like if you're playing a tank, your positioning is not that important. If you're playing an enchanter, your positioning is more important than if you're playing a tank. But you don't necessarily have to really position as well as an ADC because you don't really have to DPS and kite and things like that. So I think Senna can be a little bit weird for support mains. So I really think Senna is best in the hands of an ADC main who actually goes to support, like what is happening to me here. So I don't really see many good Sennas, but if you play Senna well, she can be very, very insane, right? I think she's actually one of the strongest supports, just that number one, a lot of people can't play her well. Number two, a lot of people hate having her as their support, me included, right? Because really, in the current meta, building damage Senna as Gwen comes in for another gank, I'm trying my best to just damage the Ashe because she's the easier target to go for. You can see here, I'm just taking out the Ashe with my damage, and there I actually misclicked my flash. I had my finger on the flash to flash if I needed to away from Gwen, so I tried to cancel it by swiping up, but it ended up going off instead, which is a little bit unfortunate, so a waste of a flash there completely. I haven't done that one in a very long time. So of course, as I was saying, a lot of people don't like having Senna on their team because it kind of ruins your team comp, right? Because normally in the support role, you want to either have a tank or an enchanter, right? So generally you want a tank if your team doesn't have a tank yet, and you kind of want an enchanter, if your team already has a tank, or you can just go for a second tank or whatnot, right? But basically with Senna, you have a second ADC that has a little bit of value. So it's a little bit like Ashe, right? Ashe is your ADC, but Ashe can provide you value by giving you vision, giving you slows, and giving you a cross-map stun. Senna is sort of the same thing, right? She's basically an ADC, but she gives you heals, and she gives you cross-map shields. But her main, and of course you get a little bit of movement speed and that camouflage from her E. But other than that, she's, for all intents and purposes, at the current moment, just another ADC, right? So you basically end up having two ADCs on your team, which can kind of ruin your team comp. That is definitely not great for the team comp, and that's what kind of makes it a little bit hard with Senna, right? You're always gonna have a bad team comp when you pick Senna, pretty much, but you kind of have a lot of carry potential, and you do a lot of damage. Right? You guys will see as we go on later on in the game. But here we have a ton of lethality already. We have the boots, we have the dust blade, and we have another serrated dirk. So we're gonna do a ton of damage now with our auto. You can already see it's ramping up, right? When you get to 2 items, 3 items, it's gonna get even worse. Or even better, I guess. Even worse for the enemy team, but even better for me. So I want to talk about Senna's passive, right? The passive rework that she got. So basically, of course, she did get her Q width of healing increase a little bit, which is obviously just helpful in general. But I want to talk about the two other changes that she had. Number one is the passive. Number two is the you can't cancel auto attacks. Now I did say that, I did talk about this in the patch notes as well, but basically the part about being unable to cancel auto attacks, in general, it's a buff to most Senna players because many Senna players cancel autos by accident when they try to auto Q auto and they mistime their Q, prioritizing the zombie ward stack there instead of actually helping out with the fight. But they cancel their autos accidentally when they try to do the combo, so it is good in general. As just look at that healing on Samira, by the way. I saved her for so long. I used Summoner Heal, I used my Q healing and my ulti shielding to just save her for the longest time, but unfortunately it doesn't work out. Now this becomes a very long fight with Galio now going in onto the Ashe and the Riven. Riven finishes the kill onto him. But now let's just look at this, right? So Braum, in case you guys don't know, can actually block Senna because Senna's auto attack is not a projectile. It's like a laser. So it works the same way as like Lux laser, for example. You can just auto attack over the Braum shield. It like Wind Wall does not block Senna autos, Braum shield doesn't block Senna autos, and doesn't block Senna Q either. Neither of them block Senna Q either. So Senna is kind of a counter to Braum and Yasuo. Now here I get slowed by Braum, and here I'm in stealth. So you notice how Diana cannot actually target me there. And when she finally did, I rooted her. Get over to the fruit, pick up the fruit, rejoin the fight. Galio now coming in. Diana ends up over chasing and going down. And now they're chasing it. Now all the respawns are coming back from both teams, and the fight now continues. Gwen coming in from the side. Of course, I can't quite damage her, so I'm just kiting away for now. And we're losing the fight. Samira is kind of getting run down a little bit, but I'm providing some covering fire. You can see that as Gwen is chasing, she's taking a lot of damage from me. I root her. She's now in trouble. She's pretty low. I get the ult off to shield my Samira, and Masu kind of dodged the ult by accident, so I flash forward, get the last auto onto the Riven, and Gwen actually escapes but has to run for the hills. Now here, once again, everybody's coming back. Diana now coming back off of the revive. The fight has been lasting for like, what, 2-3 minutes at this point. Now I realize that this is not a fight that I can win. So I'm just going to scamper off to the side and look for resets. I don't really think we want to fight anymore, especially because at this point we can probably buy items like after all those kills and assists we got from that fight. But we have deviated a long way from the initial discussion we were having, which is the Senna changes, right? So back to talking about that. Actually, wait, maybe we don't want to talk about that yet because we're back to getting items, redeploying on the map, enjoying the fight against. Diana's trying to run away. We get that auto on her. Galio gets the Q and they die. So here you can see I'm in the backline. I'm just auto-attacking the Ashe. And we just murder the Ashe in the backline. Braum knockup hits me. I'm just going to use my range to get rid of the Gwen. And now Braum has nowhere to run. Gets hit by my W as well. I heal the Samira with my Q instead of damaging the Braum to make sure that she doesn't die. And here we get another zombie ward stack. I know there's a ward in here, so I'm going to put down control ward, get the zombie ward stack again, and by this time I have a fully stacked zombie ward, so extra 50 AD for me. And yeah, so let's talk about whether or not the auto change is good. I think in general it's good because most people have trouble, doing the combo, but at the highest level, sometimes cancelling an auto is actually something that you want. Because for example, if you're locked in your auto attack animation, you need to urgently cast your Q to heal your teammate, for example, you can no longer do it. Just look at that auto Q onto Ashe, by the way. That's with Ashe bone plating. So if Ashe didn't have bone plating, that's gonna almost one-shot her. So yeah, the highest level is not really a good thing because you can't cancel your auto to cast your Q, which is just, as I said, is bad because sometimes you really need to do that, but it's just no longer possible. I think in 9 out of 10 scenarios, though, it is a buff to Senna, so I'm not going to complain about it too much. And now we're going to talk about the soul change, right? So but basically, as the fight breaks out again, fight never stops. We get a nice ult off the onto the entire enemy team, give the shield to our Rumble. Rumble is getting cut down by Gwen, but Gwen doesn't have the damage to deal with her. And now we're just going to try to run down the Ashe, but we don't really need to do that. We're going to go for Baron instead. So here you can see I'm picking up the souls. So you might be wondering, why am I picking up the souls when you no longer have to actually pick up the souls? Well, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. Basically, the change where you don't have to pick up souls is pretty amazing because it does give you the big benefit of not having to CC yourself and pick up the souls, which can be predictable. It's a little bit like Draven Access, where Draven has to kind of catch his access so everybody knows where he's going, and when you see Senna's souls, you kind of know she's going to walk up to pick up the souls because which Senna doesn't want souls? So you kind of know she's going to walk up to pick up souls, so some enemies can take advantage of that. And also, other than that, remember that whenever you auto attack, you will reduce your Q cooldown by, I think it's half a second or 1 second. So in instances where your Q is on cooldown, you actually still do want to pick up the souls as long as it's safe to do so. So the big benefit of this is when souls are not safe to pick up, don't pick them up, right? If your Q is not on cooldown, do not pick up the souls. There's no point wasting time picking up the souls, right? You only want to pick up the souls if your Q is on cooldown and it is safe to do so, which is the real only point of picking up souls at this point, which is to kind of reduce the cooldown of your Q. So that's why you can see me picking up souls still, even though we already have that change where you don't actually have to pick up the souls, but picking up the souls still give you a lot of benefit. So here with the Baron buff, we're already knocking on the door of the enemy team, whacking their mid lane inhibitor. Now Master Yi is diving the tower as usual, but he's getting exhausted. He's taking a ton of damage. Now Diana tries to go on me, but I'm not as squishy as I appear with the Galio shield coming in, and with my own ulti shield and stuff like that. So Gwen tries to run me down, doesn't quite work. I actually get a triple kill here. Galio took one of the kills. Now if Gano actually didn't take that kill, I would be on Quadra here, and this could actually potentially be a Penta if Riven actually, makes a mistake, which she ends up doing anyway, and Gano here takes the other kill, but we split the kills, but if we didn't, that actually could have been my first ever Senna Penta, which I didn't get. But here you can see we're trying to end the game, but we're gonna run out of minions. So here the base is like 100 HP, and the enemy team, 3 enemy members are respawning in 5 seconds. So here, I'm thinking whether I should try to end or not, right? So Gano actually cancels and wants to end, but I think it's a little bit too risky. You can see we can't get the wave in even before the respawn comes. So there is an argument that Braum cannot block my autos, and I don't think Diana one-shots us, and Ashe probably can't kill us either. It doesn't have ult. So there's an argument, and a strong argument, that if I actually stayed, I think we might have been able to end the game there. But I chose not to take the risk, and I chose to back and stay, which I think you could say is a mistake. But that's what we did anyway, so what's happened has happened. Now we're just going to focus on winning the game. So next, Dragon is spawning. So we're hovering around the Dragon area. This is so for neither team, but it might attract the enemy team coming, right? So I want to take advantage of this Dragon to just kill the enemy team and just, get more gold and get an advantage, right? I don't actually care about the Dragon itself. I care about winning the team fight. So that's exactly what I'm kind of looking out for here. My whole team has kind of the same idea. We know that there's no ward in any of these areas because the Squire's Bloom was just hit. Now here is the fight that I'm kind of looking for. Galio ults in onto the backline. Braum goes down. We take out the first target first. Ult across our team to give them the shield and deal with damage as well. Gwen is on top of us, but she doesn't really do any damage. Only Riven and Dinah left alive, but they surrender, so we're gonna pick up the easy victory there. And just look at the insane damage that I did, 8-0 and 17 I believe it was, or whatnot. But gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.